Welcome to the share. We are starting this week's parsha on Inyan Mosheach Geula. We talk about how and what to come the redemption. The Lubavitcher Rebbe Melech Mosheach said and continues to say that the only way to bring the redemption is to learn about Inyan Mosheach Geula, to learn about the concepts of Mashiach. Better than fighting, better than arguing, better than screaming in the streets, better than obviously shroud, better than tefillin, better than everything. The best way, the ultimate way, is when you learn about it. That's what the Torah tells us. That's what the Gemara says, and that's what most poskim hold. All the same thing. Learning the actual concepts of Mashiach will show Hashem that we are prepared, that we are ready for the holy and ultimate redemption. So this week's parsha, Bo, how can we connect that to Mashiach? Let us look at the parsha, because every single parsha has a connection to Mashiach. Much may turn on a word. What is the word Mashiach, for instance? It brings up an image of a new world, transformation of existence, and innovation in the works of creation. When Mashiach comes, the world will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem and godliness, and the wolf shall lie with the lamb, it says. It is a coincidence, then, that the Hebrew word for the month Chodesh is closely related to the word for innovation, Chidush. When somebody has a new concept, it's called a Chidush. Like I have a Chidush Torah. And Chodesh is spelled the same way. It is also a coincidence that the first mitzvah of the Torah is the sanctity of the new moon. Of course not. And more especially, of course not, when we consider the concept of that mitzvah. So there's no such thing as coincidence. People say, oh, there's coincidence that this is the way it's spelled. The Torah doesn't make coincidences. It tells you the actual fact. It tells you the reason. Everything in the Torah has a meaning. So it's not a coincidence. So the sanctification of the moon of Nisan, the month of Nisan, the month of Exodus. The month of Nisan is called the month of Exodus. Begin the preparations for the redemption from Egypt. As we are told that, as in the days of your going forth from Egypt, from Mitzrayim, I shall show you array neflois, I will show you wonders. Array and neflois. How we prepare for the first redemption, the Exodus from Egypt, teaches you how to prepare for the final redemption. Because everything in the Torah is a message for the future as well. So, how do we know how it's going to look like when we get redeemed? We see what the Torah talks about leaving Egypt. Clearly, there's a deep and inner connection between the blessing of the month, the Chodesh, and the initiation, the Chidush of the redemption. The innovation. The Chidush. The innovation is when the Geula comes. It's going to be the innovation. What is a Chidush? What is this concept? Chidush. Chodesh. Chidush. Innovation. Chodesh is new month, we know. But Chidush, what is Chidush? That which transforms the old world into a new world. We call it an innovation. When something completely changes, it's also called an innovation. I'm giving the class, please. For example, the use of electricity has changed the way we live. If you looked in the 1700s, actually, the late 1700s, everybody went with a horse and a wagon. If you look at the 1600s, everybody went with a horse and a wagon. You look at the 1500, everyone went with a horse and a wagon. 1400, 1300, 1200, 1100, 1000, 900, 800, 700. Still the horse and a wagon. Maybe it improved a little bit with the wagons. 1800, cars. 1900, planes. 2000, spaceships to Mars. SpaceX. Innovation is completely different in the past 250 years It's called Industrial Revolution. It's called the revolution of technology. And it has only advanced time and time again. It is not the same like it used to be. But everything usually stayed similar to what it was before. Now electricity exists before it was discovered. How did it? Now electricity existed before it was discovered in her hands. There was always electricity in the world. So why wasn't anybody able to get it? The innovation, therefore, was not the invention of electricity. So what was the innovation? But the revelation of its existence and the revelation of its potential. So everything exists in the world. Everything exists in Torah. But we just have to reveal that concept. We have to reveal it and use it to our potential to use it for the ultimate. The same is true of Mosheach. Currently, godliness is not visible or is obviously present in the physical world. The innovation of Mosheach will be a revelation of the godliness already within the world, actualizing the spiritual potential within the physical realm. Of course, each mitzvah is a step along the way. Every mitzvah you do gives potential, has an innovation potential. Each potential, of course, each mitzvah is a step closer in the way. Each particular mitzvah reveals a new aspect of godliness to the world, within the creation, of course. What is true of every mitzvah is certainly true in the greater sense of the first mitzvah. Just like the first mitzvah is the most beautiful mitzvah, every mitzvah is a first mitzvah. Every mitzvah reveals something new. With this background, we can understand the deep inner connection between chidush, innovation, and chodesh, the moon, specifically the sanctifying of the moon. That's what chodesh is. As mentioned, the first mitzvah given to the Jewish people is the mitzvah to sanctify the moon. So what was so special that it was our first mitzvah? In this week's Torah reading, it states, Hashem said to Moshe and Aaron, "This month shall be for you the beginning of months." Particularly speaking, the Jewish people had to know when was Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the first month of Nisan. In order to know when the 10th of the month would occur, for in the very next verse Hashem tells Moshe and Aaron, "Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th month, day of the month, then shall take for themselves every man a lamb, though begin the preparations for the Exodus and the redemption, for the Geula and the Goyla." So they had to have known what is the first month. Otherwise they wouldn't have known when the 10th month is. So Hashem has to tell us when is the first month. This month shall be for you the beginning of all months. He says this month. That's how Hashem tells us. And Nisan is the first month. Now we know that the Hebrew words for month and innovation, we understand what they mean. Chodesh and chidush are particularly identical. Not only by the slight change in vocabulary, but also that they have the same meanings. One is a new, one is a start. Chodesh is the beginning of all months, and chidush is the beginning of the Geula, beginning of the redemption, or a new innovation. It's called a chidush. So they both mean beginning of something new. Now we know that the Hebrew words for month and innovation mean. Okay? And of course the Torah is written without vowels. So the passage should just as easily be read, not this month, just be for you, but this innovation shall be yours. This means simply that the first mitzvah Hashem gave the Jewish people, the ability to innovate, that is to reveal the inner innate godliness within the world, to spiritual transform creation into a dwelling place for divine presence in this world. Though we see that there is something about sanctifying the moon, the chodesh of the Exodus, the parallels, the revelation of godliness, the chidush of redemption, we can go from one to the other. For this reason, sanctifying the moon is the first mitzvah. for it alludes to the redemption, the ultimate revelation and actualization of the spiritual within the physical. So the Chiddush and the Chodesh, we understood that. So the whole point is to bring a revelation of godliness in this world. That's the whole point of Chiddush and Chodesh. Chodesh is to reveal godliness, and Chiddush is to reveal redemption. We determine that the new moon in one of two ways. How do we know when is it a Chodesh? When is it decreed that it's a Chodesh? How do we know? Two ways. Through the testimony of witnesses, or through the astronomical calculations. Currently, because of the historical circumstances, because of the calendar, we know when it is. We can rely on the calendar. It used to be they used to have to go out to witnesses. Would have to go out and see the moon, and they would have to come to Jerusalem and tell the elders. And now it's time for the new month, okay? And then they would be able to calculate the new moon. Says Mosheach comes in Sanhedrin, the Jewish Supreme Court will be re-established, and we will again sanctify the new moon based on the testimony of witnesses. So right now we rely on the calendar because we don't have the Beis Din. However, even when the new moon was declared based on witnesses, the rabbi know how to calculate the moon's appearance, and they'll logically verify the testimony. So even if two witnesses will come a day early or whatever, we'll know they're lying because we know the actual accurate thing, but it should still be by man, by testimony, that we will actually make the redemption, make the new month. Our first question, though, is why do we need both witnesses and the calculations to determine the new moon? Why can't you just say, listen, this is the way it is, and that's it? Why do you need witnesses? What does that have to do with anything? To answer this, we first need to look at the purpose of the witnesses. Are we bringing the witnesses to know the actual date? Or are we bringing the witnesses for a Jewish thing? Witnesses either clarify the facts, verify what can be determined by other means, or they actually establish the facts, determine the law that's right or wrong by their testimony.